the darkness of the night. The wind filled the valley, rustling the leaves of the trees. At the edge of a forest nobody dared to enter, there stood an old, abandoned house. It was the kind of house you heard about in stories. Decaying wood, holes in the roof, and dirty windows that made it look eerie. Villagers avoided getting close to it and would tell their children stories about it, ensuring they grew up filled with fear. However, this story was about a brave soul who dared to approach the house. His name was Richard for him. This old house wasn't just a story, it held a secret. You see, this house was where his long-lost family had once lived. After his family's disappearance, Richard had vowed to find them, and he decided to search for answers within this very house. One night, armed with only an old lantern and his courage, he approached the door of the house. The door was incredibly rusty and difficult to open, as if no one had entered for years. As he pushed the door open, the inside was shrouded in darkness. Richard lit his lantern and stepped inside. From the very first step, there was a strange atmosphere in the house. The air was filled with an oppressive silence, as if the walls had ears. Richard began to climb the stairs, and with each step, he could feel the conflict between the creaking of the wooden boards beneath his feet and the pounding of his heart. When he reached the upper floor, he was met with a corridor with closed doors. Holding his lantern high, he saw an open door at the end of the corridor. He carefully pushed the door open and entered the room. In the center of the room, there was a large mirror. As Richard gazed into the mirror, he saw not just his own reflection, but another reflection as well. His heart raced as he realized it was someone else's reflection. Standing before the mirror, he saw his long-lost family, his mother and father. Overjoyed, Richard rushed forward to embrace them. But when he embraced them, he realized that something was terribly wrong. His parents weren't speaking to him. They just stared back with lifeless eyes. Fear gripped Richard, and as he looked closer into the mirror, he saw their faces slowly contort and deform, decaying before his very eyes. Panicking, he tried to pull away, but the door had closed on its own. Richard was trapped in the room, and the mirror was slowly advancing towards him. When he shone his lantern on his own face, he saw his reflection in the mirror, but it was grotesquely distorted and horrifying. The mirror finally fell on him, swallowing him, and a dark mist enveloped the area around the house. Villagers never ventured near the house again. Richard's disappearance only solidified their belief that the house was cursed, and to this day, this old house continues to guard its dark secrets. The disappearance of Richard left a lasting mark on the village, reinforcing the belief that the house was cursed. Nobody dared to approach it anymore. But the story didn't end there. Years later, a young villager named Emily was determined to uncover the secrets of the old house. Like Richard, she too wanted to investigate the disappearance of her family. With courage in her heart, she approached the house and pushed open the creaking door. Entering, she found herself in an eerie silence and darkness. Emily began climbing the stairs and cautiously explored the rooms with her lantern. She eventually reached the same room with the mirror. Unlike Richard, she didn't see any other reflection but her own. She stared at herself in the mirror, her curiosity growing. Suddenly, the mirror began to change. Another face, identical to her own, appeared beside her reflection. Emily, trembling, took a step back. The reflection spoke, set me free," it said. "I've been trapped here for so long. With your help, I can be free." Emily slowly began to understand the reflection's words. This reflection held the key to unraveling the dark secrets of the old house. She agreed to help and asked how to set it free. The reflection guided Emily to a hidden key in the basement of the house. Emily descended to the basement as directed and found the key. Returning with it, she listened to the reflection's story. Years ago, the former owner of the house had attempted a dark ritual, and as a result, their soul had become trapped within the mirror. Emily agreed to the reflection's suggestion to break the mirror. As it shattered, the trapped soul was freed, and the malevolent presence that had haunted the house dissipated. Returning to the village, Emily shared her tale and announced that the curse on the old house was lifted. The house was no longer a source of terrifying stories for the villagers. Instead, it became a symbol of courage and resolution. The disappearances of Richard and Emily became part of the village's history, and these two souls had finally unlocked a long-hidden family secret. The end.